Good morning. Hello, friends. Hello, hello. So glad you are here this morning. Glad you're a part of this journey. I hope you are well and good and whole, and that this day finds you filled with blessings. Hope it is good. Little Hard Rock mug this morning. Hope everyone is doing well today. You're filled with joy. We have a bit of construction going on downstairs, so if we hear some banging, that's what it is. Don't worry, it's not the apocalypse or anything going on. Good morning, Yvette. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Hope you are well on this day. Good morning, good morning. Irene, good morning. Hey, you made it. Nice to see you. Even nicer to see that little picture of you and Charlotte. That is lovely. I hope she is being a blessing. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. A couple more people coming along, and we'll get going. Glad that you are here. How is everyone? Good morning. All right, friends. A little Hard Rock mug up. Oh, that's fantastic. Beautiful. As it should be. That is great. So, all right. Good morning, everybody. It is the 25th day we are in the last week of August. Can you believe it? We are in the waning days of summer here, and we come together on this 11/11, and I'm glad that you're here. Glad that you're a part. Your presence, your journeying with us is an encouragement to me. So, really, that's what matters, right? Like, no, and I hope, I pray, it is an encouragement to you too, knowing that here at our church, here at this place, that we hold up this little community of ours digitally and apart, and maybe separated physically, but together in soul, where we care for one another. That is the hope and the gift of this time. Not just me to kind of flap my gums, not just me to be able to hold these things up, but for us to be able to have a place where hopefully you're gonna get something and get some people and a part of this. And whether you're just kind of back there in the background, kind of watching this as it comes along, or whether you're engaged in the chat, like Linda. Good morning, Linda, and Sharon. Good morning to you. Hi, everybody. Wherever you are, however you're engaged with us, welcome and thank you, because you matter. You matter. It is your presence here is purpose filled with your willingness to engage with church, engage with God, engage with life, engage with one another. So welcome. We've been on this little jag here of the 4 Rules of Life by Swedenborg, who is kind of one of my favorite theologians, and he wrote a letter to a younger man as this is almost towards the end of his life. Who said, how should we live? What should we do? What are some rules for living? And he wrote him a letter in response of 4 rules for life. And we've been covering those over these past 3 11/11s, and now we are on to the 4th rule. This is how he wraps up this little instruction that he was given. And his 4th rule is this. And by the way, this was always one of the most controversial ones for me. This was the most difficult for me. It actually took the longest for me to kind of really get my head around of what are we trying to say here. What are we trying to what? Because it made me bristle. It made me because I had struggled with this, and not all of it, but you'll see in a second as I read it. But just to know that if you're struggling and bristling, if you hear this, and you're like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Like if then you respect that, because there's actually, I think there's things to be mined in this. And so, so this is his fourth rule for living: to obey what is ordered, to attend faithfully to one's office and other duties, and in addition, to make oneself useful in society in general. I'll read that again. To obey what is ordered, to attend faithfully to one's office and other duties, and in addition, to make oneself useful to society in general. I used to bristle at this because of that first part. That was the first part that I used to trip on, like to obey what is ordered. I've been told to do a lot of things in life, and some of them I probably should have done. Probably most of them I should have done. If somebody was telling me to do them, they probably were. But there were some that I'm like, really, is obeying orders always the thing to do? Is it doing the thing that I'm instructed to do always the right thing? And is that doesn't because I'm a good congregationalist. I've got a rebel's heart here. We're people who started the American Revolution. We've got some we have a little bit of that we have some willingness to say, by what authority do you say things? And I think that's the key to this. In this the first part of looking at this rule is to say, to obey what is ordered. To obey what is ordered is not what everybody tells you to do. If the jackboots tell you to stand in the line for the cattle car for Auschwitz, then maybe that's not the thing to do. But to obey what is ordered is I think in the larger sense of the ordering of the world. There is an ordering to our world. There is a goodness, there is heaven and there is earth, and that when the ancients talked about heaven and earth, we're trapped by materialism. It's so hard to hear those words, but when they were talking about it, and Swedenborg is brilliant at this because I think he was what makes him cool to me is that he is a brilliant bridge between the ancient and between the modern, and what he's talking about is he's saying obey the ordering of things, that the heavenly things are more precious than the earthly things. And that's not just saying stuff versus God's will or something like that. That's saying that purpose matters more than like how the function gets played out. How things come into being in the material world is a function of how things are spiritually and how they flow into spiritual reality, and to obey the ordering of the world, to obey what is ordered to us, often means that we just kind of need to listen and to hear what authority is saying to us. But more often it is, what is the greatest authority? As we love God first, what is the greatest authority in the ordering of things? And so our first invitation is to obey the order of the creation, to obey the order of the life as it's given to us. And then that puts the other piece of this rule in perspective, because it's then to attend faithfully to one's office and other duties. Irene has in her picture a little picture of her and her granddaughter Charlotte, and she says, "I'm in love," and that's how perfect is that for this idea of attending to one's office. So we think about offices today as like, you got elected president or something, or school board chair or whatever, but that's not what I was talking about. Office is it's the roles in which you're given in life. Some of them are formalized, some of them aren't. if you're a member of a church, you have a church member is an office that you hold. If you're a grandma, that's an office you hold. If you're a husband or a wife, that's an office that you hold. And that there are responsibilities that come with that. And the thing is what he's suggesting to us is the embracing of those is actually where joy lives. And I'm so grateful. Irene doesn't, mind me punking her out right now, but that's such that stepping into the office of being a grandma is a joy, and that there are joys in us faithfully completing the roles that are given us in this life. That there's actually way more pain, way more struggle, way more strife when we actually when we don't live into what the offices of our days, what the duties of our lives are. And so Swedenborg's advice here is not to just make us good little automatons in the matrix, to be little batteries for the machine. But it is to understand that when we step into the responsibilities that we're given just by virtue of our identity and who we are, not by virtue of election necessarily, we were elected school board president, but by our by our willingness to step into the roles and the responsibilities and the relationships that we're given. The greatest offices we have in this life are actually the offices of who we are. Of who we are. Consider that. Before I was born, God knew me, and I was elected to become Andy Stinson. And I was elected to that office. And that who I am in that my responsibility is to obey the order of creation and to live into to faithfully live into that office, and that all the other duties that come behind that of being a dad, that of being a husband, that of being a son, that of being a pastor, that of being a soldier for a while, that of all manner of things that I've been and that I will be and that I continue to be, and none of them fully encompassing me, because those are only parts of me, and yet but to be faithful to the office that I've been elected to in this world, that God elected me to be me. And the great joy of that dwells in my faithfully stepping into it. Think about it. The pain of our lives, the great griefs of our life, the great griefs of my life are the places where I have not fallen into, where I have not faithfully stepped into those offices and those duties when they were given to me. And I think if you think about it too, there's truth in it. Now I'm not saying there aren't traps here, and this requires some discernment because you can get yourself all guilted up about what I should do, or you say, well, I was told to do it, so I just need to obey the orders. But if you're hearing what I'm trying to say and getting underneath this, and what I really believe Swedenborg is saying, because super smart guy, that this looking underneath this kind of what we could partake as kind of simple advice. I think there's actually, you'd agree too, that some of the great griefs that you've missed out on, or some of the great griefs of your life and some of the things that you've missed out on, was not giving yourself faithfully to the office and the duties that were assigned to you. And that doesn't make you a bad person, just makes you a person. Just makes it, our lives are filled with that, and the grace of God is given to us for the healing of that. But the end of it is this, he gives us he ends it with this last phrase, where he says, in addition to make oneself useful to society in general. Now, you could fill that up with a whole lot of self-denial. in the sense of like, well, I'm just trying to be useful. And so you could quite quickly make yourself a martyr to, your family, or make yourself a martyr to your job, or all these other things. And those are all temptations that we can do. But if we remember where this rule started, to obey what is ordered, to obey the order of creation, then our first order is to love God. And that as we love God, and that as we seek to open ourselves to be useful in general, to be useful to society in general, there's, I think, fewer clarifying statements to me. And I will tell you, from my own personal spiritual walk, I can pray to God about, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? What do you, Jesus, where do you want me to serve? What do you want me to do? What call do you want me to take? I can, how am I going to, what would you have me do next? But to me, there has been no more helpful rubric in all of my life. No more helpful guideline, no more helpful rule than this little phrase at the end of Swedenborg's 4 Rules of Life: to make oneself useful to society in general. To just ask myself every day, am I helping? Am I helping the people I encounter? Are people better for having encountered me in the course of a day, or are they worse? Is the world better for my presence in it at the end of the day when I lay my head in the pillow? Have I offered something of the incredible bounty that God has given me to the people that I encounter in the course of the day, to the duties that I've been assigned, is anything at all just a little better because my 2 feet have been planted on this world in this hour and this day? It's one of the most daunting and clarifying spiritual practices of my life. And I think it can be for all of us, to simply continue to look at the usefulness of our days. And I love it as a rubric because it stops being about performance. Like, am I doing it right? It stops being about job. It stops being like, am I doing a good job at my profession? It stops being about employment, but it starts being about, to pick on Irene again, am I being a grandma today? Did I get, and when I love that little child up that can be loved by nobody else, because because there's only a couple of grandmas out there that nobody else can hold my position, nobody else can hold my office, nobody else can love the way I can love. And in that loving, did that make this world, make this planet, make that child a little bit better today? It's an easy example, and I use it, and I hope that I hope I'm not overstepping with Irene to talk about it, but it is so perfect and so providential. The great Martin Luther King Jr. taps on this when he in his speech when he talks about this in this quote. He says, "If a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause and say, 'Here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well.'" Now, he was talking about profession, but Swedenborg is talking about identity, about our faithful office to be who we are in this world. You might wonder where we find this in Scripture, and I want to leave you with this because it holds me, and I think it's this teaching from Jesus that he embodies, that for a long time was actually the central thing of Christianity, and for many traditions still are. We think about the centrality of Christianity, we think about maybe communion, but for a long time there was another ritual, another rite that was present, that was bigger than that. And I have and just to tell you, I also hold it as central because I have three Orthodox icons in my office. One is the Theotokos, which is the image of Jesus, the image of Jesus as a child, and Mary stylized in this beautiful way of understanding that there's a love in the universe that is beyond anything we can understand and encounter. That even God Himself is subject to the brilliance and the power of love. The second one was actually given to be my Sharon, which is hanging right over on the wall, right over there, and it is the tree of the apostles, and that one reminds me the fact that not only do I come from this great love of the Theotokos, but I come from but I am a part of this incredible tradition. It's this icon over here is it's a tree of all of the apostles and all of the books that they wrote and all this. It's beautifully stylized, laced in gold. It's gorgeous, and it constantly reminds me that I am a part of something. I am a part of the great web of creation, the great tree of life, and that there are thousands and millions who went before me, who were more faithful than I could ever pull off, and who brought their wisdom and their grace and their usefulness to their age, and that it is mine now to bring to my age. And the last one is over here, hanging right there, which is the foot washing of Jesus, which is what I want to remind you of. That when Jesus had his disciples, before he goes to the cross, before he lays down his life to overcome death, before he steps into all that, he washes the feet of his disciples, laying out for them this image as a way to be useful, to be of service to the world, to be of service to those whom the world has given you to love, to be your office, to live out your faithfulness, to live out the order of creation that we who are given agency, we who are given power, are bound to use it for the service and the cleaning and the healing of the world. And so this is how, so he washes the feet of the disciples. Peter gets all excited about it. And at the end, these are the words that I want to leave you with today, to remind you that Jesus, this fourth rule, is grounded in one of the most holy things that Christ has ever done for humanity, in the symbol of the washing of the feet of the disciples. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. But now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." Friends, know the blessing of what it is to take up rules for life. Know the blessing of what it is to obey the order of the creation, to obey the order of all that is, and to attend faithful to the office of being who you are, and to all the duties that brings, and all the power and all the wonder of that, and the usefulness and the joy that flows from offering that which you have, from washing the feet of the dirt of the world where you find it, for engaging and loving those who are in your midst as only you can do. And the goodness and the wonder and the way the very heavens rejoice and will pause and say, "There lived you who did his or her job well." All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. Thanks for going on this little journey. And I pray that you know blessing and goodness in these days. Um, we have some birthdays coming up, and we're going to handle those on Tuesday. So be aware of that. I haven't forgotten about you, birthday people. I hope and pray that you are well and good and whole in these days. We are beginning our build on the Before I Die wall. So if you want to come by anytime between like 1 and 3 today, 1 and 4 maybe, we're going to be doing some more painting and stuff for that, and then we're going to be going forward and doing the putting up the wall on Sunday. So if you want to be a part of that, would love to have you. We'll be worshiping at 9 o'clock. This is our last 9 o'clock service. We'll be going back to 10 o'clock after this Sunday with the true sign that fall is on its way, that we'll be back to 10 o'clock worship hour. And this Sunday is Scholarship Sunday, where we have the opportunity to award scholarships to our scholarship winners and to rejoice in the opportunity to encourage each of us in the learning of our lives and our days, no matter how old we are. So thanks for being on the journey. We'll pick it up next week with another 11:11. Peace and grace, my friends.